With your Sunday, March 19th, 2023 main newscast, my name is Joshua Van Slykeman. Good morning and thank you for joining us on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM, the radio with the difference. One of the most appalling ways of oil companies are known to rob countries of billions worth of profits is through related party transactions. In the absence of contractual rules or domestic laws, oil companies and their subcontractors or even subsidiaries can jack up the prices for items that are way beyond market levels. In some cases, it is worse than inflated bills. There are even reported cases of duplicated costs and false invoice. Acutely aware of how prevalent this practice is in the industry, the People's Progressive Party civic government has proposed to implement a strict provision that compels oil companies to conduct their related party business in keeping with international prices. This is specifically outlined in the draft model production chain agreements for the 14 blocks that form part of the nation's first licensing round. And in other news, time and time again, the government of Ghana will have to make maneuvers to prevent ExxonMobil subsidiary Esso from being affected economically by changes in Guyana's laws. The company's Stabroek Block Production Chain Agreement is so precious that even certain changes in Guyana's law shall not affect it. In keeping with this principle, President Ali's administration is expected to go to Parliament for a special order to shield the PSA from a new law change that states companies operating on the order petroleum agreements will have to pay the new 10% corporate tax. On the front page of the new model petroleum agreement, which the government has released for public commentary, it is stated that the government anticipates the development of an amendment to the Corporate Tax Act to include the 10% income tax for oil companies. The new tax is being implemented for the new agreements, which will be issued at the end of the current oil block auction and for all existing deals outside of the Stabroek block. The government has refused calls to renegotiate the Stabroek Block PSA on the grounds that contract sanctity should be observed and that the stability clause prevents it from bringing Exxon to the table. The clause dictates that if Ghana implements any new law or tax code that affects the financial bottom line of the Stabroek Block co-ventures, Ghana will have to exempt them from the amendments or find a way to restore their economic benefit. In other news, the People's Progressive Party civic government has decided that it will now move to Parliament for an overhaul of the 1986 Petroleum Act to cater for the current oil blocks auction and model contracts. With the tabling of the draft legislation in the National Assembly, government and opposition will debate new laws for which is arguably the most important sector in Guyana's current development trajectory. But even before a draft is laid in Parliament, the public has the opportunity now to demand that the amendment to the oil laws include provisions to improve transparency and accountability in the management of Guyana's resources. The government was keen to know that when it passed the Natural Resource Fund Act 2021, it included provisions that allow the country to now benefit from statutory disclosures of revenues paid into the oil fund. The need for this became clear when it was found that the previous administration had an $18 million sign-in bonus from the public long after receiving it from ExxonMobil. Similarly, public interest advocates and the media have wrestled with the government for years over what should be transparent. Throughout this conversation, ministers of government have made commitments to make certain documents public but have failed to deliver. And in other news, Guyana's gas is less talk about than oil, but there is a tremendous amount of it offshore Guyana, and it is very valuable. The Hariara and Lashiwi Pluma discoveries, which were made by Exxon, for example, are teeming with rich gas which could have made Guyana a lot of money at the genesis of Russia's war against Ukraine. But ExxonMobil has decided that it will produce oil for export, with little word on when it plans to commercialize the gas. With the new model contract that the government has put up for consultation, oil companies will not be allowed to hold on to the gas discoveries without tapping them, that should be. If the new terms apply to the Stabroek Block, ExxonMobil subsidiary Esso would have already submitted a field development plan to the government for the purpose of exporting the gas from the well. If it did not do so, it would have had to give the gas back to the government. The new terms are still in draft, but Vice President Barrett Jagdeo has often said that the government's policy is for the resource to be produced as quickly as possible. And in other news, an Alberton, Georgetown man was on Saturday stabbed to death by his common-law wife. The dead man has been identified as Eason Hamilton, a father of three, who reside at 4th Street, Alberton, Georgetown. According to reports, Hamilton had reportedly dealt the woman a slap while she was asleep, causing a domestic dispute. Meanwhile, police sources have confirmed that the stabbing and related that it is being treated as a murder case. The suspect is presently in police custody, assisting with investigations. And finally, at this time, we tell you now that Kaieteur has in recent years routinely exposed the many ways in which the oil companies, particularly the three producing from the Stabroek Block, have been utilizing loopholes in the production sharing agreement to exploit the country's oil resources. Compounding this situation is the fact that the nation's oil resource is in fact being used to facilitate the further exploitation of the country and its people. The damning revelation was made pellucid during a meeting on Wednesday last at the Georgetown International Academy, an American private co-education day school in Georgetown. At that meeting, which was held with the board members and parents of students attending the school, it was disclosed that the learning institution is gearing to hike its already high school fees. The students that attend GIA are largely children of expatriate workers linked primarily to the oil companies, together with children that would have been born overseas but to Guyanese parents. This fee is being proposed to be hiked by almost double in some cases, with those presently paying $16,000 annually now being asked to pay $28,000 or almost $6 million Ghana dollars annually. This was objected by some of the parents, who pointed out that similar increases in the US was only being raised about 7%, while in Guyana, the school was looking to hike the fees by almost 200%. The session became even more heated when it was disclosed that the chief financial officer for the school is in fact the secretary of Esso, the operator of the Stabroek Block. This led to nexus being drawn between the provisions in the contract and his direct relationship with the school, its board members, and the way it is financed, under the terms and conditions of the existing PSA that the administration has publicly dismissed renegotiations for. The fees for those students related to the oil companies, their contractors, subcontractors, and affiliate companies are paid for using Guyana's oil. Compounding this situation is the fact that the actual cash paid over to GIA is recovered as cost oil from the 75% of the oil produced monthly. As such, it means while the Guyanese parents, working on a Guyanese salary scale, would have to reach into their pockets to meet the increased fees, it would not affect the parents of the expatriate workers, since the fees for those children are recouped from Guyana's oil. The full details can be read in today's Kaieteur News. And with that, we've come to the end of your main newscast for today, Sunday, March 19th, 2023. For these stories and much more, head across our website at www.kaieteurnewsonline.com or pick up a copy of the Kaieteur News at the newsstand near you for just $150 Ghana dollars. My name is Joshua Van Sleckman on behalf of the news and technical team, wishing you and your family a great remainder to your Sunday.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.
Kaieteur Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.